Hello, welcome everybody. This is day number 16, baby, with the live streams, and we are reporting live from Los Angeles. And we are promoting Intact Global's upcoming conference. 3 weeks, 21 days, baby. We are approaching the D-Day of Intactivism. Right? Remember, we won D-Day, baby. Right? So, in the conference is going to conclude with a historic constitutional challenge against male genital mutilation, in that it violates Oregon's constitution guarantee of equal protection on the basis of sex for its Oregon residents, right, and citizens. And the reality is, we got 5 plaintiffs in Oregon who have had their rights to equal protection violated, right? Or have had some other legally protected interest harmed because Oregon only protects infant girls from genital cutting, but not infant boys, medically unnecessary genital cutting and amputation. So let's see who we got. Ocean Birth, great to see you. Thank you as always. Corey, hello. I think I got a text from you or an Instagram message. Great to see you on the chat. Feel free to put it in the live. I'll be more likely to see and respond. Fire rises. I am your favorite #1 Jewish individual. Thank you, baby. And as Corey says, yep, don't worry. And as I said before, I speak for all Jews, even if they don't know it. We are going to move away from mutilating our infants, right? We're going to protect all children from genital cutting. And I know that some of my fellow Jews, they're just not, they're not there yet. They don't know they're there yet, but we're moving there and we're going there full steam ahead. It's going to be, it is a train that we're all getting on, baby. But this Fire Rise is mostly joking. All right. Well, I hope I'm still your favorite. But anyway, here's the clickable link for the conference, especially if you're on YouTube. We got 2 founders tickets left out of 22. And those were the expensive ticket items. So we're doing great on that. We got one, maybe a couple swag bags left. Again, if I have to give up mine, I'm sure some people are willing. We could also send you the swag bag after the conference. Okay, great point, Ocean Birth. Maybe we won't, we won't use the train analogy. But we are all getting on board the cruise ship, baby, to stop protecting the genital mutilation of children. Very good point. Didn't even think of that. Now, before anyone gets triggered, I've had ancestors who both died and escaped from, that terrible event 80 years ago that has pretty much no relevance today. So anyway, the point is we're going to be stopping the genital mutilation of children, right? And we are going to get all individuals behind this. And the way we're going to start, well, we've already started. The Intactivist movement is pretty substantial at this point. It has grown tremendously in an exponential fashion, certainly in the last few years, but even before. And now we have the executive branch railing against circumcision. We love to see it. Thank you, DJT. But the reality is we still have some more work to go, and we are going to start fighting this in the courts as well, right? Because courts are supposed to be, let's say, affected by reason, by it's the whole business. American legal system is reasonable and ideally what is factual. Obviously, history and tradition play a part, but we do want to make what makes decisions that make the most sense, that are in line with science and reason and justice and ethics and equality, right? Equality under the law, right? You have the woman, this Lady Justice, Holden, she's totally blind. Everyone's equal. Well, right now, we are not equal because only infant girls are protected from genital cutting and not infant boys or intersex children, right? And so we need to protect all children equally. And that's what this lawsuit is going to be challenging in the court of law. So anyway, as Slither says, you've got this, keep up the fight, his body, his choice. Absolutely. So We've got an epic, did I say epic event coming up March 29 to 31 in Portland, Oregon. It's going to be Intact Global's first conference. We've already got incredible numbers, and we've got even more numbers coming every day. And we've also got local volunteers who are absolutely kicking ass, taking names in terms of people coming to the conference, right? And we're going to have a great turnout. We're going to have 9 attorneys speaking now. It used to be 8. And we've got we've got 2 full days of great presentations. We've got great catering. It's at an epic venue. You know, I went to Portland, got in a plane from Los Angeles, you know, where my home office is at, and checked out 10 different venues, maybe even more. I didn't really keep track, but it was at least 10 with my lead videographer and point volunteer in Oregon, Brian, who will be there and is also epic. And so, we got some people joining on Instagram as well. Deborah, great to see you. Tom Bartlett, that's a throwback. Hell yeah. Thanks for joining the stream. I hope to see you in Portland, Oregon. So anyway, we got 2 great days, 2 days of great events lined up, great presentations, strategy sessions, panels. We got 2 catered lunches. You'll get to pick what you want, chicken salmon or acorn squash. They're all excellent. It's probably the best catering in Portland. For a reasonable price. And then we've got a brilliant dinner, right? A buffet. It's the nicest buffet that the Sentinel provides, and it's like the nicest hotel. But again, you know, this is not LA pricing. It's very reasonable. And, you know, we're selling tickets pretty much at cost. And you get a free swag bag if you're like one of the next couple people to buy a ticket. So anyway, I don't know if you hear the dogs raging outside, but and then on Monday, the 3rd day of the conference will end around noon, maybe 1 p.m. We rented out the Courtyard Pioneer Square, and we're going to have a press conference. We're going to have the plaintiffs, some of the plaintiffs, the lawyers, and key leaders of the movement, doctors, lawyers, other committed individuals who've supported this monetarily and otherwise, given speeches as to why this lawsuit is critical. Right? Because yes, it is critical, and we do intend on prevailing, and we believe we will, but it's the first civil rights lawsuit to advance protections of all children in the 21st century that I know of, certainly in the genital cutting front. And we intend to proliferate this type of litigation all across the United States. There's 41 states we could bring this challenge in, and I wouldn't say easily, but I could competently manage all 41 lawsuits with proper resources. Now, I can't litigate all of them, but I can certainly manage all of them, but it requires support, right? So if this is a cause you're passionate about, go to intactglobal.org, become a monthly donor. I'll certainly be hawking that at the conference, because we really do need the support if we're going to scale this big time. But we're going to move this as fast as the resources allow. So anyway, Colin, great to see you on the stream. Paul, I appreciate that. Yeah, so we are cruising big time. So anyway, so some comments. The judge will probably some old, you know, well, we won't read that comment, although I do appreciate it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the actual the conference page, right? Like what is actually going on in Oregon that weekend. March 29 to 31, Portland is their biggest airport. It's arguably the nicest airport in the country, although I did had an 8-hour layover there on the way back to LA, which was an anomaly. I think it was just a specific Delta plane, nothing to do with the airport. But, you know, I got 20,000 airplane miles, which probably wasn't worth it, but, you know, we'll take what we can get. So yeah, if you go to this link, this clickable link, and you can also, I'm going to give you a simpler URL as well, so you can put it in your URL boxes. But here we go, intact.global/conference. That is the link. And to answer your question, Barry, how many major news medias are covering this, such as CNN and many others, and what prominent politicians support you? Well, how do you define prominent, right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of politicians in New Hampshire that are actively defunding circumcision. They already passed it through the House. And, you know, they are rock stars in my eyes. Now, do we have like, you know, well, Donald Trump, the literal leader of the executive branch, he has been railing against defunding circumcision for weeks now, so that's excellent. He hasn't said I support this initiative, but we certainly hope he will. But we don't have not that I think Chuck Schumer is going to come in. I don't know why he came to mind, but Elizabeth Warren, I think, is a total cop out on the genital mutilation of children, which is unfortunate. But I don't know of any major senators who've had positions on this, but they will. And if you elect Clopper for Congress, you know that you will. Right? And I do intend to run, but let's end the genital mutilation of children first. I think that would be the best use of our resources. So anyway, if we go to intact.global/conference, you're going to get to our conference page right here. Let me share it on the screen. Bam. So it's the 2025 Intact Global Conference, right? It's going to be March 29 to 31 in Portland, Oregon. And it will be a historical event that you cannot afford to miss, especially if you're involved in this movement, right? So we're going to have we're going to launch our first constitutional challenge at the end, and we're going to unveil our plan to how do we end the genital cutting of children in the immediate future. We're not talking 5 or 10 years. We're talking like 1 to 3 years. Like, let's go, baby. So it's going to be an epic event. We're going to have 2 full days of programming, and then the third day, Monday, late morning, we're going to have a press conference in the Courtyard Square. We're going to announce this constitutional litigation, and we're going to get started, baby, because this might be the first lawsuit on constitutional grounds to equally protect all children, but it certainly won't be the last. And as will you guys be suing lubricant brands? No, we're not going to be suing lubricant brands. It's silly. There's some comments. In a few years in the entire U.S. Well, I've been meaning to pull up this article, and obviously I'm not a future teller, although maybe I am. No, I'm not. But a lot of progressive causes have flipped in a matter of a couple of short years once you have the groundswell support, right? Circumcision rates have dropped probably below 50%, I would say, and they used to be 90, right? So most of them are intact, and then there's still a good chunk who have a big part of their genitals cut off at birth. And so, that's going to cause a lot of civil unrest, and don't worry, or a lot of, let's say, discord, and not in like the chat, let's say, software, although you should join Intact Global's Discord. It's certainly possible. I'll share that article when I get a chance to find it. If anyone can link to it, I'll pull it up in real time. But it's essentially graphs of like support for marriage equality, and then it's like flat, and then it's like here, and then it just flips. And I think we're definitely could be that catalyst to get us in that inflection point. So yes, I do think it's very possible. And if the internet supports this movement, that means all of you watching in real time, who's sharing this, subscribe to my channel. If we raise the necessary resources, my law firm could oversee litigation in over 40 states, right? It's really possible. But let's start with the first one in Oregon, which is what we're doing, and then we'll sue another state. We already have one of the attendees wants to sue Minnesota and be a representative plaintiff, and we have a lawyer radical plan. Like, we are doing this. I don't know however long you guys have been following me, but I'm not a theorist. Like, we execute well, right? And so that's the plan, and that's what we're going to do. If we go back to the conference page, we have this is where you get your tickets. Again, Brad, great to see you. Thanks for joining. So definitely watch on YouTube, but if you're on Instagram, that's cool too. But this is where you get your tickets, right? We've only got 1 or 2. Jessica, great to see you on Instagram as well. We've only got 1 or 2 swag bags left, and we definitely only have 2 founders tickets left, which I'm tracking closely, which is unfortunate. But once you click on that link, you'll come to our ticket tailor page. You click select tickets. Lawsuit announcement is free in Pioneer Courthouse Square on Monday, Saturday through Sunday, which comes with 2 catered lunches, a catered dinner, drinks and coffee throughout. It's normally $300. We're selling this probably at below cost. We've only got 16 early birds left. Can't guarantee a swag bag if you buy it, after tomorrow. And Founders Dinner, although there's 22, we've only got 2 tickets left. So you're definitely if you want to be with all the founders, the leaders of the movement, the heavyweight donors, definitely get your founders ticket. It's $300, but this is a nice venue, right? So it covers the cost of the venue, and then maybe $100 or so for Intact Global, maybe a little more, a little less. I got to pick the catering on that as well. But yeah, so once you get your early bird, your founders dinner, you click next, you fill in your info and your email, and then you put in your payment, and then you're good to go. So going back to the actual tab here, we also have group rates for the hotel. It's usually $220, but it's $180 a night. So we've got, $40 off for the discounted room block. Definitely worth doing. The Sentinel, where we're hosting the event, and I'll show some pictures of the Sentinel right now. It's a very nice hotel. It's a luxury boutique hotel. And with that discounted room block, it's about the same price as a Marriott or a Hilton, but it's got character and style and class. And that's why we picked it, right? And they're great partners over there. So this is the Sentinel, and this is some of the to give you a sense of the venue. This is very respectable, professional, credible. We are here at Portland's nicest venues to essentially challenge the genital mutilation of children, which is already very rare in Oregon, right? It's one of those states where they barely mutilate their kids. So it's a great place to start. And so this is some of the pictures of the Sentinel. And it also has some of the nicest catering as well for any hotel. And so, yeah, we're going to go through the venue a little. As Corey says, has a Hogwarts vibe. Love it. Yeah, I mean, the actual theater that I did the Harvard performance in, on the other side of that is Annenberg Hall, which is where Hogwarts is, in the movie Harry Potter, where the dining hall is, right? That's where they filmed it. Thank you, Daniel. God bless you as well. Did you see the guy who's suing Department of Health and USAID for circumcision? No, I did not, but we should write an amicus brief in opposition to that moron who thinks we should mutilate children when they could just use a condom, right? And there's studies that show that circumcision actually increases your rate of HIV, whether because behaviorally people are given inaccurate information. Oh, it reduces your absolute rate by 1.2%. Even if that were accurate, it doesn't reduce your rate by 60%. That's fraudulent. You probably could sue under fraudulent marketing theory, at least in California. But the reality is we got to focus our resources where we can. Harry Potter, you name it, baby. So anyway, going back to the conference page, down at Intact.Global, we've got, it starts Saturday morning, 8 a.m. The doors will open. So, new friends, old friends, definitely come out. I'm sure if you're in this movement, you'll see people you recognize. If you're new to this movement, we want to definitely get you involved. And, this movement, we don't want to take more than a couple of years. I do think that we can cruise this. Corey, the guy suing anti-circ. That's great. So that's what we need. I mean, it's a really hard position to be pro-circ. Obviously, the American Academy of Pediatrics literally retracted, right? That expired and they never renewed it because they're a bunch of cowards who literally jeopardized the welfare of children, probably literally ended up killing hundreds and hundreds of infants so that they could keep the multi-billion-dollar circumcision industry alive. And if you're on the leadership of the American Academy of Pediatrics, you should literally be ashamed of yourself. Like, what you have done is aggressively wrong and evil and breaches your fiduciary duty. And my understanding is there's an active lawsuit against you, and I certainly hope that it prevails. And I'd love to debate you because you guys are supposedly scientists, and that's like something that you should be enthusiastic about. Well, let's talk about your circumcision positions in the past and where you stand today, because it's a really fundamental issue on human rights and parenting that needs to be discussed. And the fact that you have no policy on it at all shows that you're complete and total cowards, American Academy of Pediatrics. And, I know you'll try to hide forever until your past positions kind of fade into oblivion, but you should really have an affirmative position that you shouldn't mutilate infants at birth. And the fact that you don't have the courage to issue that, it blows my mind, right? What is the purpose of being a doctor if you don't actually give advice that helps patients? But anyways, we're going to just continue because this is not me railing against the American Academy of Pediatrics, although it is one of my favorite pastimes. And I did issue 40. I allotted 40 minutes to that in my Harvard performance. But going back to what's going on at the conference. So on Saturday, opens at 8 a.m. I'm going to give a talk about the future of intactivism. Where are we and where were we and where are we now and where are we going, right? And how can we switch this in the immediate future? Now, obviously, this is largely dependent on your support watching at home, right? And I know that our numbers are decent now, but we want them to be huge. Well, I think once we sue Oregon, people are going to say, oh, wow, this guy, me, and Intact Global and all of us, we are deadly serious about stopping the genital mutilation of children and extremely competent. I'm talking our team is the best of the best in the world, right? We have some of the best litigators, some of the best researchers, obviously some of the best arguments. And it's an unassailable position to try to protect children from this extreme type of harm. Great to see you, Maddie. Thank you for joining the stream again. So going back, so I'm going to give a initial talk. This is the link below. And then we are going to Joe McCormick, who is the treasurer of Intact Global. Brilliant guy. He's been in nonprofits for a long time. One of the first major LGBTQT executive search firm. And so he's going to talk about, okay, well, how do we fund this operation, right? Because if we have serious funding, we can have a much bigger impact much quicker, which this is time of the essence. You know, children are dying and they're also being maimed every day. So we really need to get on our high horse, but we need donations. So definitely become a donor, a monthly donor at Intact Global. But if you can, attend the conference, right? That's the first step to really, getting plugged into this network. How do we stop this immediately? And then Shay Johnson, our director of community development, he's going to talk about how do we make coalitions, right? Because this is one of those few issues. Like, even if, let's say you're not a fan of the president, right? But you're a fan of protecting children from genital mutilation. This is the one issue where and I've heard from many people, right? Because, I'm, Donald J. Trump, let's end the genital mutilation of children, right? He signed an executive order to that. And so the reality is, this is one of those issues that even if you're totally disparate, right? You disagree with everything, you can agree on protecting children from genital mutilation. And so Shay's going to talk about, okay, well, how does that actually work? How's it work in the past? How can we get that type of coordination from disparate groups who might despise each other on everything else? How do we work together on this? Let's focus on the ball, right? So anyway, and then Will Wong's going to talk about, okay, well, what is the actual mechanics of doing this and organizing all of these, people with, highly developed skills? What's it look like in person, right? What is the intake forms? What is the outreach strategy, right? And so we have a lot of talented people already in the fold in Intact Global, but we want to multiply that by 10, 100. We have thousands of super dedicated and skilled professionals, let's say, volunteering their skills in strategic ways to really move it. So anyway, that's what's going to be the first morning of Saturday. Then we're going to have a panel. You can ask Intact Global whatever you want, right? We're there. We're full disclosure nonprofit. We're working on our 501c3 with the IRS already. We've gone back and forth once. We're very dedicated to the mission, right? We'll do whatever it takes to end the genital mutilation of children. With a focus on that, let's say, supporting constitutional litigation to end this and advance the civil rights of children. After lunch, Carter will be there, but he's not giving a talk. It's actually going to be Tony Lasquardo. We got to update the website. I just got to talk with our web director. So Tony Lasquardo will talk after lunch on Saturday. He's going to talk about the work with Intaction. I mean, assuming New Hampshire doesn't schedule the Senate hearing that weekend, but because New Hampshire is about to defund circumcision, fingers crossed, it passed the House, it needs to pass the Senate from state Medicaid. But after Tony, Tim Hammond, the director of GALDEF, he's going to give a talk. Okay, well, how does GALDEF support? What does GALDEF do? What does Intact Global do? How do we, because we are in the business of making an Intact coalition. Oh, I see Brother K is here. Speaking of Intact coalition, the CDC advocates the circumcision of American boys. The fact that they won't update their 2010 circumcision statistic indicates that circumcision is way down in the USA and falling fast, which is totally true. I mean, thanks for your efforts and awareness and education and tireless and energetic advocacy. So absolutely. And as Peter Adler says, the AAP will remain liable for its 2012 guidelines until it revokes them and warns against circumcision. And good point, Brother K. Yeah. So, and, these organizations, there's new leadership now, and it's not, the new administration is suggestive of being for protecting children from genital mutilation. They literally signed an executive order saying no more mutilating the genitals of children. Right now, it is believed that was primarily an anti-trans thing, but there's really no language in that executive order that says otherwise. And Donald Trump himself has been railing against funding circumcision for the last 3 weeks. So let's this is a time of great opportunity. And let me tell you, this is what we do. We execute, we strike, and we're coming for, we are helping Oregon now, but then we are going to help as many other states as possible by, filing this litigation, right? And trying to move the needle big time. So anyway, so Tim Hammond's going to talk about GALDEF. Then we're going to have John Geishiker talking about, doctors opposing circumcision. He's the executive director, which is a critical organization, far more credible than the American Academy of Pediatrics. But it's not a financial trade group, right? So, they're not processing or supporting billion-dollar industries. Their whole goal is to protect children, protect patients, and to actually do their job and fulfill their oath to do no harm. And so John Geishiker and Doc, they have a great initiative that could really be a decisive victory for the movement, like bigger than we've ever seen. And he's going to talk about Parker, great to see you. Xavier, great to see you on Instagram. The major streams on YouTube, but we love everyone on all platforms. But yeah, so John Geishiker has a great talk. He's asked me not to release the topic yet, but by then, because opposition will organize, it's a whole thing. And then Michael Abanika, who's a good friend of mine. He's an attorney from Uganda, big human rights attorney there, civil rights litigator. He's litigated in front of the Supreme Court of Uganda many times. He's got a network of human rights litigators and attorneys all across Africa, right? And they push for marriage and gender equality. They push for protecting children from genital mutilation. And we want to get both Michael Abanika and his network of human rights litigators. We want him to plug them in here in the United States so they can support our litigation and write amicus briefs. We can support their litigation in Uganda and other African countries to be, okay, we're all in this together. We want to protect every child, no matter, where they were born, what their national origin, what their parents' religion is, because children don't have religions, and what, whatever their sex is, right? We want equal protection for all. And so Michael Abanika, we look forward to hosting him. And then we are going to have a panel of some of the leaders of the Intactivist movement, right? So GALDEF, Doc, Intaction, Michael Abanika. And then the next day, Sunday, I believe Martin Navoa is going to be giving a talk in the morning, because Tony is after Saturday, if you're paying attention. And then we're going to have Zenas Bar, right? And he's done similar litigation to what we're doing in Oregon well over 30 years ago, and is let's say as impressive and I should say commendable as that effort. The reality is America was not ready to take on its genital mutilation problem 30 years ago. It just wasn't. Like I said before, there needs to be a certain level of support before it cause flips, right? The inflection point. And it's happened for decriminalizing cannabis and marriage equality and a whole bunch of other causes, certainly civil rights. However, this cause, we're still, I think, just before the inflection point. When he sued a whole generation ago, we were not there. So although he helped educate, we weren't there 30 years ago. So he's going to talk about, lessons learned, and also where, and now he's getting, let's say on the front lines. He's the Minnesota attorney I referenced earlier, if you are paying close attention. Peter Adler, who's also joining the stream of counsel to my law firm, helping me with this huge $20 million trial. Very talented litigator and brief writer as well. He was the primary architect of the Oregon litigation complaint, right? So he's going to be there, and he wrote a book. I don't have my library up in my new office, but I'll try to bring it one of these streams. And essentially is Circumcision and the Coming Legal Reckoning. That is the subtitle. Let's see, Peter Adler, Circumcision and the Coming Legal Reckoning. I just want to put this up on the screen. Circumcision is a fraud. So this was the #1 book in pediatrics for quite a while, and it is definitely worth reading. But if you don't have the, let's say, cycles to read it, and I love to read, but I've been working my tail off, so my, I should say, leisure reading is limited these days. But this is definitely a book that you want to read if you're involved in this movement. You want to say, okay, what are the various causes of action I might have if I was cut without my consent, without medical need? So this is definitely a book to get. $14.95. You can get it in a couple days. You know how Amazon works. But Peter Adler is going to be giving a, I should say, presentation at the conference on Sunday about the different causes of action one may have, right? It's kind of like a SparkNotes version. And then after Peter Adler, we're going to have Brad Kane, who I taught was learned how to litigate under. He runs a civil litigation firm in Los Angeles. And he's going to talk about messaging, right? Because messaging is what prevails. So, there's a lot of, for example, for authors, you don't say I'm a best writing author. You say I'm a best selling author, right? Even if you're writing crap, you get the award for selling. You don't get the award for writing. And similar with intactivism, you don't get an award, or you don't protect children because your arguments are rock solid. You get an award because your arguments work and you protect children, right? You can, and there's definitely a lot of value to having rock solid arguments and putting it in the legal and the medical and ethical literature, which Peter Adler is the leader of, but there's also other people who published on that. But yeah, so, but what is the winning message, right? And that is protecting all children. We want to protect every child equally, right? That is the winning message. Mike, thanks for joining the stream on Instagram. And so the reality is we want to protect every child equally from genital cutting. And Brad is going to talk about, okay, well, one, happy warrior philosophy, right? We're not here to, spit venom at people. We're here to help you make the right decision with your child and not perform medically unnecessary genital amputations at birth. That's totally batshit nuts, right? And then after, we're going to have our second catered lunch. And again, this food is great. You'll have a Google form when you sign up. You could pick your various lunches, and then dinner on Saturday. We have a great spread. Alan, great to see you again. Good afternoon to you as well. Thanks for keeping up the good fight. Look, I'm 16 streams in, baby. I told you I was going to do a daily live for the conference, and that's what I'm doing. Even if it shortens my lifespan, we are going to end the genital cutting of children as soon as we can. So anyway, and then Deborah, who's a friend of mine, she was joining the stream earlier. Deborah Shagian, she also runs a civil litigation firm in Los Angeles, and she grew up in a conservative Jewish household, so more Jewish, or not really, but more hardcore than certainly my upbringing. And like me, she probably thought circumcision was normal or even good for you, or the mark of God, blah blah blah. I mean, obvious nonsense. But the reality is, when you're steeped in this culture, you think, okay, maybe I should do this. Well, as she got older and became an adult, she looked into it, she studied it, and she realized, oh my God, not only is circumcision not good for you and not healthy, but it is extremely harmful to children. It maims them for life. It kills them occasionally. Complications are common. It is a travesty. It is an atrocity to commit to an individual. And she had that realization as an adult, and she's definitely changed some hearts and minds in her conservative Jewish community, but there's definitely a solid contingent in that community who looks at her like she's got two heads. Like, what are you talking about? Of course I'm right. And so she's going to talk about the dangers of cultural conditioning, and that's not a theoretical danger. It's like literally Jewish boys are imperiled. Their corporal bodies, like they are literally being mutilated by their communities. And how do we protect them, right? And so she's going to talk about that. And then we have Pete Musamichi, great to see you. Pamela, thanks for joining. And then we have John Silla, and he is a good friend of mine, president of the American Institute of Bisexuality. And he's had great progress in his nonprofit endeavors. And his motto is, how do you make bisexuality cool, assumed, and normal? Now, Intact Global is supportive of equal rights for all, right? Certainly all children, but also people of any sexual orientation as well. And so what John Silla has seen is, a generation, certainly 2 generations ago, people who identified as bisexual were probably 1%, right? And then even as the LGBTQT movement came up, there was bi erasure. It's like, you're gay or you're not. But the reality is human sexuality is on the spectrum. So the chances that you as an individual are 100% straight or 100% gay are actually quite small. You're probably somewhere in the middle. And now Gen Z, over 1 in 5, almost 1 in 4, 23% of them identify as some type of bisexual. And that's probably far more closer to what it really is. It's probably like way higher than that. But, obviously culture and religion, these are very strong forces. They can force you to mutilate your infant, for example. But those kind of depress the numbers. But the Gen Z, the newest soon to be adults, they are far more aware of how things are supposed to be naturally in terms of, there's definitely, it's more of a spectrum. This is not a binary. So although it might be helpful binary to for religions and control systems to say you're a man or you're a woman or you're straight or you're gay, there's definitely a lot of, unfortunately, there's definitely, it depends what your position is, but in terms of categorizing, people exhibit many different behaviors. They have many different identities. They're aroused and engage in different things, right? And that's just the reality. It's not cut and dry. And so he's had a lot of success branding bisexuality as cool, assumed, and normal. And the reality is, in Tactivists, we are cool. We are trying to protect children. That's a cool thing to do. It should be assumed that you don't want to mutilate and amputate parts of your infant. And it is normal to be intact, right? Or at least to be an intactivist. Because unfortunately, we got over 100 million American men who've had a big part of their body cut off. That was important. But it is at least normal to be opposed to that. Yeah, we had bad advice. Let's just chalk it up at that. And then we are going to, we're going to move forward with that, making decisions that are best for our children, right? We'll have a panel of the lawyers. Maybe we'll cycle because we have so many lawyers. We have 9 lawyers there. And then I'm going to do a final talk to kind of set the scene before the press conference on Monday. And then we have a founders dinner. We only have 2 tickets left, 2 out of 22. So if you want to meet with the leaders of the Intactivist movement, of Intact Global, and the major donors and committed individuals, be one of the last 2 people to buy a ticket because they're about to sell out. And there is not a greater capacity than 22. I've already had this conversation with the venue. It's a super cool venue, super bougie, no more whiskey library. It's underground, kind of speakeasy. But the reality is, once those tickets are sold, there's no capacity and they won't let more people in. I know because I've already leaned on them and tried. And here are some of the speakers. There'll be a little shuffling before. And then here's the founders dinner. This is the Sunday night with 2 tickets left. As I said, it's a beautiful venue. This is the green room that we rented right here. And it's definitely worth, if you're really committed to this movement, getting that $300 ticket. Most of it goes to the actual dinner, but the other portion is a donation to Intact Global. And then on Monday, March 31st, we have a permit pending, which I've been told is, good to go. We just need to get some insurance. But yeah, we've rented out the Portland Square, or a good chunk of it, and we're going to have our press conference there announcing the lawsuit. So that's what's going on. I will field some questions and then some comments, and then we will wrap it up because, it's day 16. There's work to do. I've got a birthday party. It's a beautiful day in Los Angeles, as you can see. I don't know if you could see actually downtown LA from here, but, maybe one day I'll change the camera angle. But here we're just trying to get through. So as Alan says, as a Jewish person who's been trying to change my family's mind about this for a decade, I really appreciate you being out here. I think there are many of us here in a difficult social space. Totally happy to do it. My family doesn't circumcise anymore, but it was definitely not something that was like immediately adopted, but it required a consistent, intense effort by me, which I'm sure you can believe. And, I'm not someone who let's say, oppose without serious good cause, because it's going to be a serious hardship. So yeah, but it took a lot of moving energy from me and from my family. But now we're going to do the entire U.S., right? And whether you want to get on board the cruise ship or not, you like to change of metaphor. As Alan, they can't unhear you. Planting seeds is great, even if you have to be patient. Totally. Yeah, it takes a long time to realize, oh my God, my culture's been mutilating infants for thousands of years. Maybe we're not the good guys, right? And, there's definitely a lot of great stuff about Judaism, but mutilating infants is not one of them. Sadly, Ocean Birth, they can definitely unhear me, but they won't be around forever. Well, there's a great quote from, I think, Niels Bohr. He said, the old, beliefs don't change because, you change people's minds, but old people die, right? So the reality is the old people are the ones who believe in mutilating infants. As I mentioned before, millennials, Gen Z, we're not cool with it. And, there's really no organized opposition, and they certainly don't put a face to it because it's a shameful position to support circumcising children. So anyway, also, after having a conversation with the mom intent on cutting today for religious reasons, got me wondering if doctors will still be able to circumcise post-birth for religion, or if they're unable to. Well, so here's the reality of our legal system. If you're doing something for religious reasons, it falls under a different category, right? A different constitutional protection. Doesn't mean you could do whatever you want for religion, right? If you have a child, you can't sacrifice the child to your God. You can't kill the child. You can sacrifice his genitals, right? Because we're still in the child sacrifice timeline, but you can't kill him. Unless you kill him circumcising him, cutting off part of his penis, and it was a mistake, in which case you may or may not escape liability. But that could be okay. Now, obviously, that's super messed up and deranged, but that's where we are right now. But if you're cutting off part of a child's body with no medical necessity and there's no religious intent, well, then it's a different set of rules that apply. And those rules are less onerous and easier to overcome. And that's where we're going at Intact Global, right? So, there's a lot of thought, a lot of strategy, a lot of legal and other manpower and woman power that's gone into this. So there's definitely, there's different standards. And so we're not doing that. Ari, great to see you, man. What's up, buddy? Thanks for joining the stream. As Blake said, my barber mentioned she went to her nephew's bris. I didn't know what that meant until I got home and looked it up. I was horrified and I'm feeling conflicted if I should continue to go to her. Well, you could try educating her, right? And be like, look, my understanding is that they mutilate infants. Well, that might be a little strong. I like my barber and he's totally on board, but, and that's probably not a coincidence. But anyway, yeah, maybe an opportunity for gentle education. Some people can't replace their barbers that easily. And those parents will have to go to Moyle or someone else like that. Yeah, possibly. As Peter Adler says, on January 28, 2025, President Donald Trump issued Executive Order 14187 titled Protecting Children from Chemical and Surgical Mutilations. Yeah, and that language could 100% be used in the intactivist space because we are here to protect children from genital mutilation, right? Or surgical mutilation, I should say. And so, and we don't really know the intent behind that, right? When I read that, it says I'm paraphrasing a little, but you are not allowed to remove functional parts of a child's sex organ, right? Well, let me tell you, the foreskin has well over a dozen functions. It's extremely important, and there's no reason to remove it. As Ari says, sometimes you got to follow your own guts to get something done. Love that, Ari. Great to hear from you, Erie. And yeah, totally. Eric, there are a few starred comments. Well, let's take a look to see what's going on. Thanks for doing your early live for us across the pond. I saw 15 Square shared info about the conference today. That's great because we've got a great boots on the ground, Justin, who's helping us out, getting the word out. Crazy that this whole issue was kind of started by a mix of hysteria and Kellogg's guy getting some anti-masturbation Puritan ideas. I know. The point of being a head doctor in the AAP is to forward the interest of stakeholders, Doc. Well, the reality is, if you have someone with integrity at the helm of your organization and you're doing what your organization professes to do, which is to help the certain interest group, and I'm not talking about a company, but like, a nonprofit or let's say a profession who's literally express purpose is to help patients, you're going to go really far and people will want to support you, right? The American Academy of Pediatrics, total ideological and largely takes a lot of non-medical positions that may be politically expedient. Certainly seen that with circumcision. Good afternoon, Alan. And Maddie says, I feel like pro-circ peeps are going to try and use parental rights as one of their counterpoints. Well, definitely. But, for example, I think in Oregon, certainly California, you can't tattoo your son's foreskin, but you can amputate it and then you could tattoo it. It makes no sense at all. It's totally contradictory. And so this is one of those aberrations in the laws. Parental rights are not absolute. You can't tattoo your child. You typically can't pierce your child. Genital piercings are prohibited in Oregon, but you can literally take a scalpel and cut the whole thing off. It makes absolutely no sense. You could argue it's a piercing, right? You literally have to pierce this genital tissue before you remove it. As Peter Adler says, deeply embedded cultural norm. That's really what we're fighting against. Now, thankfully, that is phasing away, as Brother Kay said earlier. The CDC won't even release the decreased rates. As Oceanburst says, parents don't have the right to remove eyelids, fingernails, etc. Wait, that's funny. Wait, I'm old. No, well, the younger people who are having babies, for the most part, they're 100% moving away from the genital cutting of children, from circumcision in droves, and we just need to be that strategic point that really kind of blasts through this. And this constitutional equal protection litigation is our best bet to really make this into a national issue in the immediate future. Well, that's certainly true. Peter Adler is smarter than most. That is an understatement. But yeah. So anyway. Great live, guys. I will be streaming in tomorrow. Not sure what time yet. It is a Sunday, which means I will be working a full day, most likely. And so this is the conference link. My dog, literally, Mountain, just took a seat at my feet. So maybe I can get him to say hi. Hey, Mountain. Hey, dance with me, buddy. Okay. The crowd wants to see you. Oh, he's a heavy dog. But he's like a little baby. So this is Mountain. Say hi, Mountain. Okay, I'm going to take him to a birthday party. And it's one of his girlfriends. He's got many girlfriends. He's a very popular pupster in the neighborhood. But I'm going to get some work done, go to a client's birthday party, take Mr. Mountain. He's going to have a grand time. And I will see you tomorrow, and definitely get your tickets. Intact Global's conference, March 29 to 31. And I hope to see you there. It's going to be a great turnout. So, let's protect all children from genital cutting. And the first step is the conference, then the litigation, and then we're going to proliferate the litigation, constitutional litigation across all the United States. So, again, as Peter Adler says, the claim that parents have the right to elect circumcision is false and fraudulent. We all love Mountain. He is the absolute man. He is a perfect pupster. And again, go to this link. I'm going to leave you with that. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow. Okay. And, Mountain is such a good boy. It's totally true. And, thank you for existing, Danielle, and all your support. Okay. See you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much.